Welcome into Locked On Sox. On today's episode, we'll be talking about Andrew Vaughn. We'll be recapping the two spring training games from yesterday, Thursday, March 17th, and we'll talk about the White Sox and Michael Conforto and the tricky idea of paying somebody $100 million here on Locked On Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. We're free and available on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find us there at Locked On Sox or by searching Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. I've been the host of Locked On Sox for over 4 months now. It's been a fun, wild ride being able to talk to you about the White Sox day in and day out. I'm also a content creator over at CHGO. I'm pumping out the White Sox content, and it's fun talking about our team. It's our team every single day, and that's the important thing about Locked On. We're trying to keep you updated, informed, entertained in a quick, succinct fashion. So today on Locked On White Sox, we'll be talking about the White Sox first spring training games. They had split squad games out in Arizona against the Cubs. They won both of them. What was important from that game? We'll talk about it here on Locked On Sox. We'll also talk about Andrew Vaughn's 2021. I think he probably is the most important Sox in 2022. If he has a big year, the Sox will have a big year. And, he's a real linchpin of this team. So we'll talk about him. And, I think that there's some interesting numbers from 2021 that could get you excited about Andrew Vaughn. And then finally, we'll talk about the White Sox and a $100 million contract. They have never given $100 million to a player. And I think they're at the point where they need to reach out to one of the right fielders that are still on the market and lock them down. And I think that means going over $100 million in total for salary. So we'll discuss all of that here on Locked On White Sox. Before we jump in, thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now let's start off with the first game. We'll go out to the one that took place in Sloan Park. The Cubs hosted the White Sox. In that game, the spring training game, the White Sox put on the bump Kyle Kubat. He went 2 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 earned runs with 1 K. The Cubs threw out starter Kyle Hendricks. He went 2 innings, gave up 3 hits, allowed 1 earned run, and struck out 2. The big thing in the Hendricks innings, the 2 Hendricks innings, was a shout out to Yermin Mercedes, who was leading off. He went 2 for 4 for the Sox. He was their DH yesterday at Sloan Park. And the one thing that Yermin Mercedes showed last year, and he's continuing to show, is if it's not over 94 miles per hour, he's a pretty damn good hitter. He can serve soft tossing, breaking balls, off-speed pitches left and right. And he showed that against Kyle Hendricks, a former top pitcher in his league. And, just tossed and served a pitch, very Yermin style, other way, and just, wasn't absolutely smashed. He just got wood on it, and, Yermin could load up and absolutely hit bombs. We saw that against the Royals, like 451 feet. But he also, early on in the season was just raking. And against the Angels, he was just serving the ball where he was able to put it. And he didn't really show the struggles against velocity there. And that's why, the Yerminator became the Yerminator. There's still potential with Yermin. I don't know if it's with the White Sox. Maybe another team will take a shot on him. But, seeing him produce in spring training only helps the White Sox because they need trade pieces, or they need pieces that other teams will find valuable. And I think that there's something there with Yermin Mercedes. We were talking with Josh Nelson on our CHGO podcast yesterday, and he mentioned that the Rays, saw a similar profile in Yandy Diaz. And they had him on their roster for a long time. And, if the Rays are able to see it in Yandy Diaz, and, they might see it in Yermin Mercedes, maybe, there's a trade partner out there for the White Sox. It might not be the Rays, but, maybe one of these teams that are trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel. They're trying to use all of their payroll. They'd take a shot on Yermin Mercedes. Maybe the Pirates feel the same way. There's now a DH in the National League. So Yermin hitting in spring training only means good things for the Chicago White Sox. Also in this game, Zach Collins went 0 for 2. He struck out in 4 pitches against Kyle Hendricks. Miker Adolfo hit a bam against the Chicago Cubs yesterday. He went 1 for 3. He also struck out 2 times. And also Chirizi from the 108, I thought, gave a very fitting description for Adolfo. It feels like he's swinging a 100-pound bat because his bat isn't, like, quick. It's not really sharp. But he loads up a lot of power in that damn thing. I mean, he's swinging some big wood, and it showed off. When he got a hold of it, the ball went far. And also in this game, Luis Mieses, he's a first base prospect. He's connected very recently with Eloy Jimenez and has said that Eloy's been a great influence in his life. He had a big game. He went 2 for 3. He did strike out, but he had a triple, and it was a nice show of speed and power there for Luis Mieses. And he's a prospect that's on the come up for the White Sox. I don't think he's top 15 just yet. I think his highest level is Double-A at the current moment. So him just showing something is interesting. He's a left-handed bat, so good to see there. And then Oscar Colas also made his White Sox debut. He drove in a run with a sac fly. So big day there, and Yolbert Sanchez also hit a double. And Brian Ramos, one of the other top 25 prospects for the White Sox, he hit a home run. So it was a good day for the White Sox. They won in Sloan Park 4-3. Those are the big performers. Yermin, Adolfo, and then I'll say Ramos because he had the homer there. But this is some nice showing, some nice offensive output from the Sox in that game. 7 hits and in a 4-3 win. And then the White Sox also hosted a game. In that game, Wes Benjamin got the start for the White Sox, and then the Cubs threw out Ben Holmes. And you also saw some big leaguers in this game. You saw Andrew Vaughn, he's a big leaguer. He played in this game. Gavin Sheets, he's a big leaguer. He played in this game. Jake Berger, I'd say that he's close to a big leaguer. He played in this game. You also saw Dwight Smith Jr. He is a former big leaguer with the Baltimore Orioles. Romy Gonzalez played in this game, and also Sebi Zavala played in this game. And some bigger, interesting names when it comes to prospects. Jose Rodriguez was in this game. You also had Zach Remillard was in this game. And then, most importantly, Yoelqui Cespedes was in this game. And pitching-wise, Liam Hendricks was in there. Let's start there. Let's start with the pitching. Wes Benjamin went 2 innings pitched, allowed 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 1 K. He's a lefty. Showed, not great command. I wasn't really wowed by Wes Benjamin, but he was relieved by Liam Hendricks. And Liam Hendricks gave up some pretty big contact, a lot of outfield balls. One was driven almost to the center field fence. I'm not worried about it, but it's just nice to see Liam Hendricks get out there. Nice to see him pitch. I always like watching him pitch, and it's just more about getting work in. I'm not really concerned about what Liam Hendricks is going to do, especially based off of spring training. But it was nice to see Liam Hendricks out there. And the big story coming out from the White Sox game when they hosted the Cubs, you had Zach Remillard hit a home run. You had Yoelqui Cespedes hit a home run, and it was a bomb as well. I mean, he hit that one much further than anyone hit a home run yesterday for the White Sox. And then the first one was Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn hit a pop fly, and it went out. And it barely got over the fence, but they count. All of them count. As long as it goes over the fence, it's a home run. And Andrew Vaughn's a very interesting piece. I'm very excited to talk about his future, and I got a lot of interesting stats to bring to you. But before we jump into that, I got to mention our friends over at Built Bar. Have you tried the Puffs yet? Because if you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bar. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. These are going to be your new favorites. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, the Puffs included. 100% real chocolate. These are low in calorie, high in protein, and you could replace your candy bars with these. These are better, and if you're looking for something to replace those unhealthy snacks, Built Bars are low in calorie, high in protein, and they taste delicious. That is Built's MO. That is Built's really, true selling point, is that they're all about the taste. They make it delicious first and then figure out how to make it healthy. And let me tell you, they do taste delicious. They have all these great flavors. So go to Built.com to check out what is new there. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So Andrew Vaughn hit a home run in yesterday's spring training game, and let's talk about Andrew Vaughn because he's an interesting piece for the White Sox. I mentioned Josh Nelson yesterday, and we had an interesting conversation going back and forth, and he mentioned how the White Sox really rely on their top players to hit their 60 percentile of performance. And to give you a little bit of background on that, we've talked on this podcast before about ZiPS projections. That's Dan Szymborski's projection model for Fangraphs. And in that, there's a range. It tries to put together all of what a player is projected to do through their career and through the sample size that we have, and it gives you a percentile. So if you're have a 10th percentile season, you had one of your worst possible seasons. Maybe that's injuries, maybe that's a big regression. If you have the 90th percentile, you are well overperforming your expectations. 50 percentile is basically where you're expected to be. And what he talked about was, they expect Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada, Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez to perform at that 60th percentile. They want them to perform 10% better than they're expected to. And, it is difficult to hear that just because you feel that if the White Sox were just a little bit more aggressive and they weren't relying on these guys to have career years every year and they were a little bit more secure in spending money, right field would get a little bit more secure, and you have two young guys who need the at-bats but also need a little bit of protection in Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn can't hit right-handers extremely effectively right now, and Gavin Sheets, I don't think he can hit left-handers extremely effectively right now. And not only are you going to have them go up against Major League pitching, a very difficult task, but you're also then putting them out of position in right field, two natural first basemen out in right field. And if the Sox just went out and spent some money on a right fielder, they could really put time and effort into developing Vaughn and Sheets as hitters. And I'm interested in Vaughn playing the field, but also I think that he'd be fine and a pretty natural at first base. And at some point, Jose Abreu will retire. We'll talk about that next week because he did make some interesting comments this week, Jose Abreu, about his future. But with Vaughn, I don't understand how the White Sox aren't going all in on him. And I feel like they are, and that's why he'll play right field this year for the White Sox. I think your right fielders will be Engel, Vaughn, and Sheets, but the more and more I look at it, the more and more I would love this kid to just be our DH. I do think that he brings a very unique style of play to the game. I really do love his patience and his maturity as a hitter. I know the White Sox really do love that. They love rushing people up to the major leagues. Garrett Crochet, Andrew Vaughn, Chris Sale even. They do like a quick and easy turnaround. Nick Madrigal also played pretty quickly for the White Sox. And looking at Vaughn, playing under 100 minor league games in his career, being forced into a playoff team the past year, I do think that if Vaughn is ready, if Vaughn is built up his body for 162, I think that he could be the White Sox third best hitter this year. And looking back at his stats from 2021, there's a lot of interesting things that stick out to me. I really loved his patience. I really loved his power. And I really loved his ability to not have bad at-bats. Everyone has their bad at-bats, but consistently I wouldn't say Vaughn, Vaughn could take 4 good at-bats if he got 4 at-bats in a game. And looking back on Vaughn's stats, very interesting to see how close he compares to Barry Bonds' rookie year. And it's obviously different. Bonds is playing center field, and Bonds is, stealing 37 bags. But if you look at just their power numbers and their hitting numbers, Barry Bonds in his rookie year hit 16 home runs. Andrew Vaughn hit 15. Barry Bonds hit 26 doubles. Andrew Vaughn hit 22. Barry Bonds walked 65 times. Vaughn walked 41. Bonds struck out 102 times. Vaughn struck out 101. And it's not completely fair. Bonds did end up having more plate appearances than Andrew Vaughn, and I think that Bonds got a little bit more run. And again, Barry Bonds is Barry fucking Bonds, so I'm not trying to, compare Vaughn to the greatest baseball player, but it is just interesting to see that, a guy that turned into the most patient player in MLB history had a very similar output to Andrew Vaughn in his rookie year. And again, this is Andrew Vaughn who didn't play a ton of minor league games. And then you look at more of an expanded look and you see that, Vaughn wasn't ready to play a full 162, and there was a tweet yesterday from Chuck Garfien, and he said he spoke to Andrew Vaughn, and he said the biggest takeaway from last year was getting used to the grind of 162. He had never done it before, and he's back tightened up in August and September. He strengthened his core this offseason to help with that. And you look back and when Vaughn might have started getting hurt, and the last extra base hit that he had in 2021 was on August 19th. He from August 20th to October 3rd without having an extra base hit. He just wasn't fully there. So if you look back at those Bond stats, 22 doubles and 15 home runs, that's through his first 105 games. And then he just battled it out for the rest of the year. And that was, very bold of Andrew Vaughn, very risky of the White Sox too to push him like that. But Vaughn showed a lot of promise in those first 105 games. And I was looking back, since 1995, there are 18 players who in their first 105 career games had 15 home runs, 20 doubles, and 30 walks. Albert Pujols led the list with the highest OPS with 983. Jose Abreu was up there. Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., Evan Longoria, Ledmy Diaz, Eric Hinsky, Mike Yastrzemski, Jody Garoot, Dan Uggla, Dan Johnson, Marty Cordova, Pat Burrell, Vlad Guerrero, and then Andrew Vaughn, Eric Hosmer, and Ike Davis. So pretty interesting company. There are the Ike Davises, there are the Eric Hosmers, there are the Marty Cordovas and Dan Johnson, Jody Garoots, but you also have Evan Longoria, Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Jose Abreu, Albert Pujols, and a guy that was very close, at least to him OPS-wise, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now, hey, he doesn't have the arm that Vlad Guerrero Jr. does, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. was a monster in those corner outfields. But if Vaughn's position is first base or DH, I think there is the framework to him turning into one of those guys that just every single at-bat is a hellacious nightmare. I think that Vaughn has so much potential, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he performs in 2022. If he has one of those 60th percentile seasons that the White Sox hope that Abreu, Anderson, Robert, Moncada, and Eloy have, if Vaughn's performing over his 60th percentile, and he might even perform like over his 70th percentile just because expectations are low, the White Sox might have a real dangerous effing lineup. So it's interesting to watch, and I think that if you're looking for something to have hope in, it might not be the White Sox signing a $100 million contract with Michael Conforto, but it might be Andrew Vaughn having a big year, because I do think that he's got a ton of talent, and I'd even bet on it. It's that time of the year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Are you ready to discover your purpose and leave an impact wherever you go? Mission Possible, written and read by New York Times bestselling author and athlete Tim Tebow, encourages you to find inspiration, pursue your purpose, and create a life for yourself that counts. Ignite a new spark in your life through this new inspirational listen. Mission Possible by Tim Tebow is available everywhere audiobooks are sold. So you want a $100 million right fielder. We are now looking at the right field free agent market, arguably the biggest need for the White Sox this offseason. We talked about it with Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets. Yes, their bats are proven, and their bats would be really nice at a DH position, but those are two first basemen playing in right field. And the White Sox, they might have a capable outfielder in Adam Engel, but the biggest concern with him is health. Can he stay healthy for 162 games? I don't know if he can. And if this team has true World Series aspirations, they need to get a big league right fielder. However, the market's getting real thin, and it's getting thinner and thinner by the day. Chris Bryant signed with the Colorado Rockies, $182 million contract over 7 years. Other players on the market who have signed, Kyle Schwarber signed for $89 million for 4 years with the Philadelphia Phillies. Seiya Suzuki signed for $85 million for 5 years with the Chicago Cubs. And Nicholas Castellanos is now in talks or serious talks with the Philadelphia Phillies. So if you look at all of those names, and even Eddie Rosario went to the Braves for $18 million for 2 years. The only names that are left for right field that are true starting right fielders are Michael Conforto and Jorge Soler. And I don't think that Soler makes a lot of sense. He's a right-handed bat, big power guy, high strikeout guy, low OBP. I just think that he is not the right fit for the White Sox. I don't think he's patient enough. I think he's too hit or miss. You're better off just taking a gamble on Michael Rodolfo because it's almost the same thing. Soler did hit 40 home runs, and Michael Rodolfo has not had a full MLB season, so maybe it's not the same thing. It's more of a shot, but there is a lot of volatility with Jorge Soler. So the conversation then becomes, do you want to pay Michael Conforto? And I think he's going to get more than Kyle Schwarber. I think he's going to get more than Seiya Suzuki. And those guys are pushing close to $100 million. And we were speaking with Josh Nelson yesterday, and he mentioned that Jose Abreu is the only player to, I think, make a lifetime amount of money over $100 million with the White Sox. But he's made about 110 over 9 years with the White Sox, which is a pretty good steal for what Jose Abreu has given you over those 9 years. But the White Sox have never signed a player to a $100 million contract. And it's looking like that if Conforto signs, it will be anywhere in the range of $19.5 million a year to $22.5 million a year. And I just don't know if that's the White Sox game. If they give him $20 million a year for 5 years, that's $100 million. It just doesn't feel like they're going to do it. I feel like they have a number for Conforto, and they had a number with Machado, and those numbers clearly were too different, and Matty ends up being in San Diego. And the number, I think, ended up being $275 compared to $300 million. So the White Sox were $25 million off. So, if we're looking at a 5-year deal for Michael Conforto, are the Sox at $75 million right now? Are the Sox at $85 million right now? Because the last thing that Scott Boras is going to want to do is have Michael Conforto, his client, sign for anything less than what Chris Bryant just signed. Chris Bryant has an MVP. Chris Bryant's a former Rookie of the Year. Chris Bryant's a World Series champion, right? Him making $26 million isn't crazy. And he's got positional flexibility. I mean, he's got the ability to play right field, left field, first base, and third base. Where Conforto is mainly an outfielder. He could play center, he could play right, he could play left. Right is probably his best position. But he doesn't have the accolades. He doesn't have the allure of a first, number 2 overall pick like Bryant does. And Seiya Suzuki is unproven. Conforto, over his past 5 years, has been a well above average hitter. He's got OPS plus above 125. The White Sox need that in right field. The White Sox have not had big production season by season in right field. But it's looking like if they want to sign him, they're going to need to go over that $100 million mark. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more White Sox content that I create, the less and less confident that I get that the White Sox will be spending $100 million this year. So if you want the White Sox to get Michael Conforto, make a donation, write to your senator, write to your local general manager, Rick Hahn, because unless fan support is saying I'm not supporting the team unless they sign Michael Conforto, I think you're going to see Adam Engel, Andrew Vaughn, and Gavin Sheets in right field for the White Sox in 2022. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. Our next episode is the Monday Mailbag. Call in at 312-566-8727 or by writing in at lockedonsox@gmail.com. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Sean Anderson, and I will talk to you on Monday here on Locked On Sox.